GMB's major migrant update sparks uproar, and it's bad news for Starmer. Good Morning Britain viewers were left divided as the Prime Minister is due to outline landmark changes to asylum policy later today. Good Morning Britain viewers have reacted as Keir Starmer is set to announce migrants granted asylum in the UK will no longer be automatically given settlement and family reunion rights under landmark policy changes. As part of the reforms, genuine refugees will not be returned to their home country and will be entitled to a package of core protection should they receive a positive decision. However, they will now face a new route to settlement in the UK, which requires them to contribute, and they won't have the automatic right to family reunion. During Thursday's installment of Good Morning Britain, hosted by Susanna Reid and Ed Balls, the latter asked political correspondent Richard Gaisford, "So this is about addressing the pull factors which are pulling people across here to the UK?" Gaisford replied, "Yes, it's as much about addressing people's concerns as anything. You can see the concern that many people in the public have in the recent polling. Keir Starmer is actually already in Europe in Copenhagen and has been discussing European security and national security there. They have come to some sort of arrangement, it seems, to provide a drone wall to help protect Eastern Europe. But it is our own border security, which is perhaps playing mostly on his mind, and this is why he stepped into this debate at the Labour Party conference." He reiterated how Starmer stated there will be no automatic right for migrants to bring their families here, which has been seen as a pull factor to many. The report then cuts to a clip of a woman called Judith Kybram, who arrived in the UK in 2007 and discussed her experience as an asylum seeker. She said, "I nearly died when I was coming to the UK. When you are coming here, you are coming to change your life and your family's life. So it can't be like, oh, you can't bring your family here, you can stay here, live here, and be part of the United Kingdom, but you can't bring your family." The report sparked uproar among viewers on X, with one typing, "What specific criteria will be used to define exceptional circumstances under which family reunification will still be permitted, and how will these criteria be applied consistently and transparently to avoid arbitrary decisions and potential human rights challenges?" Another said, "It all sounds very reformish. It looks like at reformparty_UK are setting the agenda. Farage leads and Starmer follows." A third added, "This is probably impossible under ECHR and other international laws and treaties." Someone else penned, "It's 20 years too late." On a crisp autumn morning, viewers tuning in to Good Morning Britain were met with something far more incendiary than the usual celebrity gossip or weather segments. The show aired a live report from an immigration detention center, cameras trailing removal vans, anguished families bidding farewell, and Home Office officials coordinating logistics. The tone was visceral, immediate, hard to ignore. Within hours, social media was ablaze, talk shows lit up, and political spin doctors were scrambling. This was not just another media sting. It was a strike in the heart of Labour's toughest battleground, immigration. And in that strike, Starmer's government now faces a test of optics, policy, and narrative control. The anatomy of the uproar. 1. Spectacle plus empathy equals emotional overload. Television has power. Faces, voices, children sobbing, parents holding hands. The GMB footage humanized migrants in a deeply visual way. Viewers were forced, by camera angles, by live comments, by interviews, to confront the human dimension of removals. In politics, human imagery is persuasive. It forces questions. Are these decisions just? Who bears the burden of enforcement? For many, the emotional resonance overwhelmed abstract policy debates. 2. Credibility and transparency weaponized. The unusual access granted to the program suggested that the government had agreed, or been pressured, to allow cameras inside. That raises immediate red flags. Why now? What was meant to be hidden is now on full display. The state seems complicit in showing the inside cameras version. Critics will argue this is self-serving theater, a way to signal toughness while controlling the message. Allies will insist it shows transparency. But either way, it rearranged the terrain of debate. 3. Opposition capitalizes brutally. Opposition parties, Tories, Reform, hard-right voices smelled blood. They jumped in with the lines. This is chaos by design. One week, Starmer is promising compassion. The next, he's deporting people with cameras rolling. Labor is broken. Soft on policy, hard in effect. What the broadcast did was give the right a visual poster, a weaponized image against a party trying to thread a tightrope between control and compassion. Why this hits Starmer hard, and what it reveals. A. Cognitive dissonance in his brand. Keir Starmer has sought to present himself as a moderate reformer, tough on illegal crossings, fair to asylum seekers, rational in tone. But that balance is fragile. Televised removals shove his government into the role of enforcer, spectacle maker, and moral arbiter, warping that moderate image. Supporters on the left who fear draconian immigration policies will see betrayal. Swing voters concerned about borders will still wonder, is this the right way to do it? B. Media narrative sets the frame. Once visuals like this dominate headlines and discussions, policy nuance slides away. The press will ask, how many families were deported? Did minors get separated? What was the legal basis? How many did this footage represent? Starmer's team is forced to chase explanations rather than lead the narrative. And in politics, the reactive posture is vulnerable. Internal party strain. Labour includes many MPs, activists, and members deeply wary of harsh immigration measures. Some already bristled at Starmer's rhetoric about islands of strangers and the 2025 Restoring Control over the Immigration System white paper, which proposed doubling citizenship qualifying periods and narrowing family routes. Wikipedia. This broadcast sharply intensifies those internal tensions. Party dissenters will demand clarity, apology, or course correction. If they see Labour veering a step too far, the backlash could fracture coherence. D. Judicial, ethical, and legal pressure. The footage provides material for legal challenge. Human rights groups will scrutinize whether procedures were followed. Lawyers will ask whether vulnerable groups, children, trauma survivors, were treated properly. International bodies may chime in over treaty obligations. What was once abstract legal contest might now be pixel by pixel, frame by frame forensic review. E. Voter mood and the optics gap. Public confidence in Starmer's government is not unassailable. Polls show Labour still struggles to mobilize enthusiasm compared with the Tories of old. The optics gap, what people feel versus what is true, matters. A televised deportation gambit feeds anxieties about authoritarianism, misuse of state power, and cold technocratic governance. And when the emotional picture is strong, fact-checking gets drowned. What might Starmer's team do? Strategies and pitfalls. 1. Spin control. Narrate first, explain later. The moment such a report airs, the government must deploy its own narrative. Frame it as law enforcement action against criminal migration networks, not a blanket deportation regime. Emphasize due process, rights protection, legal appeals. Introduce complementary human stories, e.g. legal migrants, integration success, community testimonials. If Starmer's team fails to immediately contextualize, they cede the frame to critics. 2. Targeted rebuttal. Facts over emotions, but not devoid of emotion. Provide the numbers, how many removals of what nationality, legal status, age cohorts, etc. But also narratives of fairness. The system also grants protection, the government is not dismantling asylum. Use counter-images of integration, family reunion, support services to offset the stark drama. 3. Incremental policy moves. Rather than grand, sweeping changes, which risk overreach, adopt incremental adjustments. Clear guidelines around family separation, deportations of minors, appeals. Independent oversight or public review of enforcement actions. Transparent reporting on each operation's justification. These help guard against accusations of arbitrary or draconian practices. 4. Party reassurance. To the Labour Party base, issue internal briefs, hold caucus dialogues, reassure critics that the government remains committed to rights and human dignity. Make clear that tough policy is not the same as cruelty. 5. Legal audit and safeguards. Preempt legal challenge by auditing every enforcement unit, ensuring proper documentation, offering legal support access, and explaining case-by-case justification. 6. Communication restraint. Avoid sensational language. Don't adopt the hyperbole of rivals. Lean into reasoned, calm voices, but don't abdicate moral clarity. The broader significance, what it says about modern politics. Media as relay becomes media as force multiplier. A morning show now doesn't just relay, it shapes the political battlefield. Emotional politics overrules technocratic reason. No amount of policy brilliance can counter a forceful, sorrowful visual. The border battleground is now central to political identity. Labor wanted space to shift the narrative to housing, economy, climate. That space is shrinking. Trust is vulnerable in the era of live cameras. The moment the public perceives state operations documented, you lose the benefit of plausible deniability. Final thoughts. The next moves matter. GMB's major migrant update may become a defining moment for Starmer's government, but it is not yet a terminal blow. Its real danger lies in momentum, the momentum of emotional backlash, narrative dominance, and internal destabilization. If Starmer reacts poorly, deflecting, stonewalling, or doubling down on spectacle, the consequences could be grave. Erosion of his moral mantle, revived opposition momentum, and fracture inside labor. But if he uses the moment to reaffirm principles, anchor enforcement in fairness, and rebuild narrative control, he might yet survive with his core political identity intact. In politics, sometimes you lose the first skirmish but still win the war, provided you don't lose your compass in the heat. Starmer now needs to show he still has that compass.